motivating factor for coming out here and joining the movement? What really inspired you to come and be a part of it?
What inspired me to come be a part of it is the suffering. The suffering in this country is growing exponentially, and it's all due to the greed of your multimillionaires who aren't satisfied with being multimillionaires. They want to be billionaires, and they're willing to do that on the back of Americans. And so I was always moved by that, but for me to come down here just by myself with a sign, I'd be labeled a kook. That my career damaged my mind or something, you know, so I would not have been effective. But once I saw all these people here and they were suffering, they inspired me to leave my comfy, cozy position to come down here and join them.
What would you think the reason would be that more of your colleagues haven't come down and joined the movement?
Oh, very understandable. They'd be fired. They'd lose their jobs. Police officers are, as everybody else nowadays. Excuse me, but I have to talk to this gentleman. Everybody's terrified of losing their job. In fact, corporate America has been so successful that people's salaries are being cut drastically. They're losing their health care, they're losing their pension. But do you know what these people are saying? At least I have a job. That's how successful corporate America is. I mean, yeah, they've taken away everything, but these people are still thankful. And they can't come here for one day because they'll lose that wage or they may be fired. So a lot of these people cannot even contribute, even though they'd like to, because of the dire situation they're in.
Okay. As for the police officers who are as individuals supporting us, if they come here off duty as a Legion to support us, is that a potential cause for firing, or can they do that? You have the right to do that.
You'd really be stepping on somebody's constitutional rights if he came here off duty. But the stigma would be there. He would be identified, and then there's all kinds of things that could occur that would be detrimental to his career, perhaps. It would, yeah.
Does that sound like something you'd want to be a part of organizing, perhaps?
Well, that's very important. Monday, I hope, I'm working on having a very critical meeting with an official from the Police Benevolence Association. All right, that's like the police union. And the reason I want to meet with him is I want to explain to him what I'm doing. I don't want him to get information from corporate media as to why I'm here. I want to tell him why I'm here, and I would like to interact with him as to how perhaps I can improve the relationship between the police and us. And I hope that meeting takes place.
Can you say?
Excuse me, I just want to finish this interview.
Okay. Why would you say that we haven't had more retired police officers coming out here to support the cause?
Because they're relatively comfortable, and perhaps they don't have the degree of empathy to leave their company. It's just not only police officers, anyway, retired insurance salesmen, retired lawyers, retired doctors. There's just perhaps a different sense of empathy that they have.
Do you think it's also contributed to by the lack of, understanding of the severity of the issues that we face?
I think you hit an excellent. There was a Russian writer, and I'm going to mangle the name, Dostoevsky.
Yeah, Notes from the Underground.
Crime and Punishment. And he stated that suffering is the origin of consciousness. And I fully believe that. The trouble with the people, like Newt Gingrich, his message the other night to demonstrators was, get a bath and get a job. This man has never suffered a day in his life, okay? He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and that silver spoon never came out. And when you live a life like that, you cannot empathize with people. And subsequently, all of these people in corporate America, they're all unable to empathize because they have never suffered. To me, the one qualification you should have to run for office in this country is you should have to show how you've suffered. And that's the one area I've never heard a reporter at a interview a political nominee. They ask them all kind of questions, but never, sir, could you define a suffering period in your life and go into detail about it? Nobody's ever asked that question.
What did you learn from it?
Yeah, and
that's a good point.
They just don't care and if you don't suffer,
no pain, no gain.
People don't connect, and they don't care. And to me, the people up top, they're basically soulless. And you have people, if you can have millions of dollars, and I mean millions, and know what people are. All they have to do is ride the subway here, just ride the subway. But they know what's going on, and you can know that. But your intent is to, instead of making more millions, I mean, instead of helping that person, your intent is to become a billionaire. You're soulless. You're absolutely soulless, and soulless people should not have power.
Exactly. It stems from gluttony and greed. I have one last question
Sure.
for you. If you had any suggestions as to where our movement is to progress from here, the next steps we should take unilaterally.
Okay. I will never tell you what next steps you should take. That's not what I'm here about. I take no leadership role, and I am just trying to help whatever little way I can.
I'm not. I'm just. Would you have any suggestions in terms of should we lobby for possible legislation to be passed?
That's going right now beyond
Should we go
my
political?
interest and my capacity. I'll tell you what level I'm on right now. I'm on the level that when you have an individual protester inside the barricades and they're shouting out at the police all kind of vile things, I don't see where that helps the cause. Although I understand that person's frustration. That person perhaps has been abused. He's been discriminated against. He's a total victim of society. So I fully understand his rage. But I don't know if that rage being directed by a police officer is helping the movement. And that's what we got to be looked at. So when I'm saying what level, I'm not at the level right now of what we should be lobbying or whatnot. But I'm at the level of perhaps when this individual is shouting that venom, the other protesters who do not agree with that, all right, and they can come and stand behind that individual and show the police officer.
Yeah.
Now this is funny. The person who created this method of applause is a genius. All right, one person thought of that idea, and it caught on because everybody has a natural inclination to want to express the fact that I agree with you. When somebody's speaking, oh, that's how I feel. Oh, you hit it exactly. And they have the need to express that. And so it's often done through applause. But applause is very disruptive. At all these political, congressional meetings in the White House and whatnot, and when the president speaks, every minute he says, I am here today to tell you,
sir.
Please, did somebody, what's that? Did somebody say they have a question?
I said, God bless you.
Oh,
sir.
God, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. But anyway, all this clapping. He said every 2 words they're clapping, and it totally interrupts the process of communication. Somebody somewhere thought, hey, how can we change that? And they came up with this, and that way the speaker can. And when I saw this, I thought it was a little silly, but okay,
But it
was
works.
okay.
It
That's
works.
fine. It worked, but I didn't know what it even meant. I had no idea what it meant. But then it was explained to me, and I said, brilliance, absolute brilliance. And then they said, if you don't agree, this way. And even if, I see your point a little bit, but I'm not fully sold, this way. And it was brilliant to me. But anyway, going back to the level I'm on now, with the individual who's spouting all this stuff at the police officer, the police officer hearing that and getting no reaction from the rest of the crowd is interpreting that as he represents the entire crowd in here. Now, if he does, fine. If everybody in the crowd wants to go over and go like this, we agree with him, that's fine. But I think the people in the crowd who do not agree with him should go over there. Not that I think, but I'd like them to consider doing this. That they would go over and they would go like this.
Yeah, amen.
And they would let the police officer know, listen, we don't side with him. He does not represent us. But you're not telling this individual to shut up. You're not infringing on that individual's right to shout his venom, but you're letting the police officer know he doesn't represent me.
So during the attempted shutdown of Wall Street, after they kind of cleared the barricade area a little bit and people kind of started relaxing a little more, someone did a mic check and started with "fuck the police" and launched into a tirade about why he hates the police. In response to that, someone else did a mic check and they were like, "No, well, we actually love the police. They're also our brothers."
Yeah, I have.
And then someone else was like, "Wait, but the police started. Its roots are in quelling slave rebellion. So actually, no, still fuck the police." And then someone else spoke up and they were like, "Well, but the police are they don't want to be quelling the movement of the people. They're in constraints as well. We can have solidarity with them on that front. That they're not willingly doing this out of their free will. their jobs are on the line. If they say no to doing what they're currently doing, that's their family's livelihood right there. So what I think that right there is a strong point of solidarity we can have with them, and perhaps we can organize an action around that.
Most definitely.
That's a key part, as I see it, of this movement. And that's where I thought I perhaps could be
and we
effective.
have been discussing demonstrations along these lines. So I was wondering if you'd like to collaborate with us in putting something like that together.
In a pro-police demonstration?
Yeah,
Pro-police?
basically, like in solidarity
Good.
with the human beings behind the uniform.
Well, I've been talking to police up in the sanitation because I was picking up stuff there, and one policeman said that their IRA or whatever it is, retirement funds, pension funds, are managed by Wall Streeters outside the control of the union and everything.
Yeah.
And he personally, just in the last quarter, lost $20,000 in value in his particular individual IRA or whatever it is they have, pension. And he says all the cops now, they are very upset by Wall Street firms managing their pension money because he has lost $20,000 only in one quarter. And he's wondering, okay, some funds have lost money last quarter, but it's like 2%, 3%, or Karzine's fund went totally bankrupt and they can't find $1.2 billion. But he's yeah. But you wonder where that went, right?
Yeah.
Ex-governor of New Jersey, ex-Goldman Sachs director, right? But anyway, the police are losing money in their pension funds as being managed outside the union control, the pension fund control, by professionals on Wall Street, and they've lost tons of money this last quarter, and they're all really upset, very upset.
I think it was like
So
And it's these type
we're
of
all
things-
suffering,
yes,
man.
And it's that type of information that is getting down to the police. And then that more.
They're trying to wrestle control of their own money, retirement funds, out of the hands of Wall Street firms because they're getting screwed royally.
As everybody else.
Sir, I'd just like to offer you some Thanksgiving dinner donated by the
Hey,
Police
Eric.
Officers Union.
That's so nice.
Thank you very much.
I know you're hungry, standing here giving a lot of interviews, and I also want to thank you so much for what you've done.
Thank you for being here.
All right, Eric. Good idea.
Absolutely. And it's proud for me to shake your hand because you guys started this, all right?
I'm from Michigan, so I'm geeked to be here.
Okay, but the fact is, everybody here is inspiring me.
I think it's a global movement.
I think we're all inspiring each other.
Uprising of the energy, evolution.
Yeah, it's a global
So
movement.
Thank you so much.
So we should probably do a pro-police protest.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this man has been very patiently waiting.
Thank you so much.
Why do you think they brought in private security? Probably because the police can't stomach it anymore.
First
You
of
know,
all,
they're just
I'm
going- I
curious
mean,
to how
talk
you might
about
have answered this already, but how
conflict
was
of
it dealing with
interest.
the arresting officers when you were arrested here in New York City? What was that like?
I was treated like every other protester, and it was an exemplary arrest. It was done totally professionally. And I want to add, though, that I respected them in arresting me. Meaning, when they handcuffed me, I got up and I willingly walked. I did not go limp. Okay, I know going limp has been forever. It's been a tactic by demonstrators, and I understand why they do it.
Frustrating.
Exactly. But then you have to realize, really, is it better to hold in your own, and vent your frustration other ways so that you don't hurt the movement? Because when you're even going, first of all, a lot of them don't go limp. They're kicking and fighting, and so you're making an enemy right away. The police see you as combating them. But even going limp, what you're doing is you're making it harder for the officer. Now, not only one officer has to escort you, you have 2 or 3 officers carrying you, and you're making it harder for them. They know you're making it harder for them. So how is that helping the movement? I specifically walked over willingly, and subsequently I tried to set the example of, no, I was wrong. I committed my civil disobedience. They did what they had to do, and I wasn't going to make their job any harder. And so I hope to get that out as a symbol of how you should, an example of how you should be arrested.
I appreciate that. I think some people do it to take more time, to create more of a presence and things like that. But I also appreciate, of course, and I think a lot of people will appreciate your point of view.
Yeah, there's no problem with civil disobedience. I committed it. That's to bring attention to the problem. But after you bring attention to the problem, there's no reason to make it harder for the police.
Okay. And then the second,
Okay, exactly.
my other question is, being the fact that so many of us are sort of affected by aggression or violence or dominance in general.
In general, not by police.
In general, in our daily lives.
Sure.
Is there a different future of police that you can see that's less of a dominant force, because sometimes dominance is affecting people so negatively and traumatizing them further?
It has to evolve.
They have to follow orders.
Yeah. Now it will evolve, no doubt about it. But as this woman said, yes, they have to follow orders, and you want them to follow orders, because if you don't, you can have anarchy. Okay, but you want them to follow proper orders, and that's the thing. And they are trained to follow orders, and without that, you just have chaos.
But do you think in a future protest, is there room for more education for the police in order to civilly deal with also most of the time civil protesters?
There's plenty of room for that, and it's going to be happening. And this is what's going to start that happening. I'll tell you right now. This Zuccotti Park is the epicenter of all the change that's going to occur between the police and the communities.
Would you go so far as to say it'd be a good idea for the police force to incorporate some sort of body that is acknowledging the ideologies and the trying to understand the sentiments of the protesters in a more passive and still being actively enforcing making everyone safe, but at the same time maybe something that's actually talking to protesters instead of just the barking orders and things like that. Could that future be a role of the police? Or
at a demonstration like this, it would be not proper for the police to engage in conversation. Okay, they're here to prevent any civil unrest, any disturbances. They cannot be engaged in conversation, and rightfully so.
They're supposed to be neutral.
Well,
neither.
Many people, when they try to engage the police in conversation, the police refuse to talk with them. I'm talking about these around this barricade, and just stare straight ahead. Now that's, in this country, that's often interpreted as disrespect and ignorant, that he's not even looking at me. No, that officer is being a professional. He's trained to do what he should be doing, which is not letting himself be distracted. Because that's a tactic used by some anarchists to distract the police so they can do something somewhere on the other side of the park. So that police officer is doing his job exactly as he should. Now, my thing is, though, that does not, even though he can't engage in conversation or look at you, you can still talk to him out of your heart. None of this screaming, how horrible he is or whatnot. And there's one thing, and then I've told people this, that you can talk to him. What would I say to him? I don't know. I just have anger. I have nothing to say. He's not interested. But there's one thing every single protester can say to that police officer. They can tell the officer why they are there.
Very good, very good. I just want to throw this one thing in. Some people use the definition of anarchy as the word "an" without and "archy" as a ruler. So it's kind of been.
Oh, you know what? I never heard that.
Yeah. See, some people call themselves anarchists because they're trying to make that happen tomorrow, and other people call themselves anarchists, which actually believe it is more of a spiritual type of thing, where I don't assert dominance over any other person. On a spiritual level, no one is more or less than the other. So it's a tough word, but I just wanted to let you.
It is a very tough, and I thank you for that explanation. My understanding of it, when I use the word anarchist, I think it's somebody who is so incredibly frustrated with the system. He or she has worked with the system for years. Nothing has ever worked. It's still the same corrupt system. They're so totally frustrated, and they're so totally still sensitive to the injustice
At any cost.
that they just say, hey, I got to turn to violence now. That person is not an inherently violent person. The system turned them into that by frustrating them so much.
Sure.
Even this last Obama administration, people gave up their lunch for $5 for mail for the campaign.
Yeah.
They worked day and night, knocking on doors, trying to get people to vote for Obama. They worked within the system. You always say, well, work within the system, and these people did. And look what they got. They literally got a very close black George Bush. I'm very disappointed in them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.